It's so awesome to be back for another community event, and I'm super stoked to be back with everyone in our awesome community. We have a lot on the agenda, as you saw earlier, ramped up with demos, deep dives, and more. But I think what got me most excited about the event today is the fact that we were getting questions leading up until today. And a lot of them were asking about what is platform? What can I do with it? And what are best practices for me to get started? And we are going to be answering those questions today, along with taking you through 3 key features that are available today and later on in the future. But before we dive in, it's also important for us to take a step back and think about some of the trends that are going to make platform a critical part of your service operations. Now, all of us here know that service is essential for businesses. But as AI starts to change the way that we operate, it's also changing the way that our customers and even our employees are starting to interpret good service. Now, in the past, you may have been able to offer different channels, have a help center, or even deliver the fastest first reply time imaginable. But now customers are expecting a lot more, specifically when it comes to hyper personalized experiences. And they want these experiences not just in their initial interaction with you, but across their entire journey with your brand. So much so, in fact, that 73% told us that they are willing to move to a competing brand if they happen to experience multiple bad interactions. And on the other hand, 75% of customers are also willing to pay more for brands that offer better customer experiences. And because of this shift, we're starting to see more businesses and leaders look at service not just as a support function, but as a competitive differentiator in the market. Next, if we skip over to the next slide, amazing. Now, while this is good news for us, getting to this level of competitive service is not easy, because we know from our CX Trends report that leaders do agree that personalized service is important, but only 22% of those leaders said that their organizations were sharing data well. And what that tells us is that agents are still working in data silos, which means they don't have the context they need, and they're not able to personalize interactions as quickly as customers would like. If you stay up on that previous screen over there, one other thing that this leads to are disjointed touch points, especially as customers and employees are having to repeat information that may have already existed in their profiles, their order histories, or even their most recent interaction with your brand. And of course, combined, these just create really impersonal conversations that leave customers dissatisfied and agents frustrated. Next. But to stay competitive in this new environment, what teams really need is a platform that can be modified and molded to fit their unique needs and their customers' expectations. One that makes it easy and quick to personalize service through custom data and messaging tools, and a platform that can also integrate across teams and systems so you have one connected experience. Because once you have your entire service ecosystem connected, that's when you can start optimizing processes with unified analytics and time-saving automations. And of course, we cannot forget how important it is to do all of these things on a secure platform that protects customer and business data. Fortunately, that is where the Zendesk platform comes in. With our platform, you have the fundamental tools that are supporting Zendesk in the background, which includes all of these essential tools and the capabilities that keep your service operations running and thriving. Next, you can see the different ways that organizations are using the platform today. With our platform, you are able to create custom workflows with little to no coding, or build robust dashboards that can be tailored to different stakeholders in your organization. And the platform is also the nuts and bolts working in the background to make sure that your systems, data, and channels are all unified in the agent workspace to ensure your agents have everything they need to personalize interactions at scale. And this is all done on our secure infrastructure, which has flexible data privacy and security tools that you can configure to fit your business and compliance needs. And with these Know-to-Pro-Code tools, we've been able to equip innovative CX teams with everything needed to create personalized experiences that customers trust. And a lot of this often starts with the customizations you make when you first get started with Zendesk. So next, we can see examples of what customization looks like in Zendesk today. And if you've worked with other platforms before, the word customization might make you think about that one time you had to bring in a developer, source budget, or get new timelines in order to do a unique workflow. Well, at Zendesk, we've invested in a range of low to no code tools just to ensure that admins and developers are equally empowered to modify and customize their service operations. In fact, if you're new to the platform, there's a pretty good chance that you've already used our out-of-the-box tools. And these are certainly powerful on their own since they're built on CX best practices. But if you're really looking to differentiate your service and make a difference for your agents and your customers, you may even have to go outside of the box and start modifying the tools that are available to you today. Because once you start introducing these tailored experiences, you're introducing experiences that are optimized for your business, integrated across your systems, and ultimately customized for your agents and your customers. So whether you have some coding experience or not at all, there are plenty of opportunities to modify service to fit your unique needs. And of course, if you go to the next slide, the momentum definitely is not stopping there, as we have a number of releases that we've just had in the coming weeks and even months that have been highly requested. For example, we have our new modified closed tickets, which has been a community request for a long time, as well as our updated upsert capabilities for the data importer. We also have released multi-select fields, and of course, my personal favorite, placeholders for custom objects, which we'll be diving into momentarily. But over the next year, you're also going to see enhancements to existing customization tools like form-based statuses. Last year, we released custom ticket statuses, and based on the feedback that we received from the community, we are introducing form-based statuses as a way for you to organize your different statuses by brand, team, or even workflow. But speaking of forms, we're also going to be integrating custom objects into the Help Center experience so that you can better streamline the intake process and general flow for your agents. And of course, what I'm most excited about on this list is our up and coming workflow orchestration tool. This capability is going to give you the power of an embedded iPaaS solution in Zendesk so that you can connect with external systems and build out custom workflows without any additional coding. And this is something that we're looking to release as an EAP at the end of the year with the goal of releasing in 2025. But there's also a lot more you can look forward to next year, including additional work in AI, change management, and more. But as you're skimming through this list, one thing that you may notice is the fact that a lot of these releases have to do with custom objects. And if you go on to the next segment, if you're new to custom objects, you are probably working with our standard objects that are available today, like tickets, users, and organizations. The way I like to talk about custom objects is that they are that fourth magical category of data that can be really molded into anything that you need to see in Zendesk. And because custom objects are similar to data tables that are natively stored in Zendesk, your service teams can deliver faster, more personalized service significantly easier than before. For example, you can use custom objects to store product, equipment, or asset data in Zendesk, and also associate that data with different users and organizations. And as an added bonus, that information is surfaced in the agent workspace so that your agents are all working from the same single source of truth. And of course, because this information is natively stored in Zendesk, that means you can bring in your custom data into workflows and reports so that you can take proactive action on your data. Next, one of my other favorite parts of custom objects is the fact that they are so incredibly flexible. And to date, we've seen organizations use them in a number of interesting ways, including data unification, case management, and task automation. For example, if we just look at a retailer, for example, we have folks using Zendesk to store product catalogs, which are then extended with workflows that sync data from external systems and allow teams to kick off returns, exchanges, or warranty processes directly from Zendesk. But of course, we've also had a lot of custom use cases as well, like custom integrations, agent task lists, and even unique processes that are only unique to those specific businesses. Next, rather than just telling you about what custom objects can do, we've gone ahead and prepared a demonstration that'll show you some of those core capabilities as well as some of those new features there. In this demonstration, we'll be working with Rapid Results, a project management software company that is obsessed with efficiency. And while they want to prioritize speed, they also don't want to compromise a good service experience. So they've been working on integrating their customer and employee data across their service ecosystem, including Zendesk. To start our journey, we have Alex, a marketer over on the Rapid Results team. Alex is in some urgent need of a data analytics tool for an upcoming campaign next week. So she goes to the IT team's help center to request access. In this case, she's filling out her information, providing context, and likely submitting the ticket, which is a very common experience. But what she doesn't know is that this particular ticket field is actually a custom object lookup field. And while this doesn't change the experience for Alex, it's going to make a world of a difference for the agent that's helping her. So let's go ahead and submit this and take a look at it again from the agent side. Here, we can already see that Chris, a member of the IT team, is already working on Alex's ticket. And here we can see a side conversation email was automatically kicked off as soon as this request came in. This is largely in part to the form field that Alex had submitted earlier. Now, because this is a custom object, Chris can easily look up information about this software, including the permissions available, what licenses can be issued, and most importantly, what approvals are needed. And with custom object placeholders, we can actually use this particular form field in order to specify a trigger so that whenever a request form is submitted, we automatically check to see what approvals are needed for the software so that we can trigger an email side conversation with Alex's manager. So here we can already see that Tori has been emailed and has been asked to receive her approval. And while Chris is waiting for that answer, we can go ahead and give Alex an update, a status on her request. Now, this particular macro does one of three things. First, it does create a pre-populated and personalized email. But the second thing it does, it chooses a custom ticket status. This particular status will reduce the SLA to 1 hour. But one thing to notice here is that this is a very consolidated list of custom ticket statuses. With form-based statuses launching this year, we can already preset which specific fields appear based off of the form that was submitted. So in this case, we can go ahead and submit this update, give Alex a status check, and right on time. We can see that Tori has given their approval, so we can go ahead and mark this side conversation as complete and assign a license over to Alex. Now, because Alex isn't usually part of the data team, we'll go ahead and just assign a temporary license over to her. And with object triggers, whenever we make this kind of assignment, we can actually use object triggers to call an API that will automatically assign this Tableau license to Alex in the Rapid Results ITSM system. Once that's done, we can go ahead and give her an update, let her know that a license has been issued, and close out the request. But what if Alex actually needed this particular software for more than 7 days? Well, in the likely chance that she does submit this kind of ticket, there's a good chance that a different agent on the team, like let's say Riley, is going to be supporting her. But rather than filtering through all the different types of licenses that are stored in Zendesk, we can use dynamic filters in order to filter out only the licenses that are unique to Alex. So here we can confirm that a temporary license was issued, may have expired based off of the date, and we can go ahead and issue a new license and get this extension request approved. So here we can see how custom objects can streamline this experience for Alex. But before we close out this demo, let's take a quick look at what this all looks like in the background. To start, we have that placeholder event that we had mentioned before. This was created as a ticket trigger so that based off of the form and the status of the ticket, we'll automatically check to see what approvals are needed in the software that is attached to the ticket. In this case, we had a manager requirement, but we can also use a department lead as well. And if those conditions are met, we can automatically send them a side conversation with a personalized email. On the form status side, that custom ticket status has been used as part of an SLA policy so that anytime that particular status is chosen, we will have a shorter next reply time requirement as specified here. And finally, to leverage dynamic filters, you can go to your ticket fields, obtain your custom object lookup fields here, and set those filter conditions so that anytime an agent is working with an employee, the only software licenses that they'll see on the agent workspace are the ones assigned to the cluster. And that are some ways that you can use custom objects to streamline your service.
First one's from Lisa, and Lisa asked, do you need a specific plan to use these?
So for custom objects, you don't need a particular plan. They are available from our team plans all the way through Enterprise Plus, but one thing to be conscious of is the fact that different plans will have a different limit when it comes to custom objects. So for example, I believe if you're on the team plan, you may only have 3 objects, which is definitely good enough for a few use cases, and that number increases as you move up plans.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer. And our next one's from Chantel, and she asks, is it possible to include a checklist or SOP on the custom objects?
That is a great question, and that was one of the custom use cases that we've seen one of our teams do. So right off the bat, I believe that was more of a custom build that they created, and for additional context, they used a custom object as part of a custom application that allowed them to build out that task list. So while the object itself is not that task list, it can be used to support additional custom apps or custom integrations as well. But definitely a great question.
Looks like that might be it. I'm just going to go ahead and check to make sure we're not missing anybody. All right. Last call before we move on. All right, let's move on then. Thanks for those questions, everybody.
Amazing. And for folks that have additional questions as well, I know we're taking questions at the end, but at least for the folks that perhaps if you're getting started with custom objects, there are a few takeaways that we recommend if you are starting your custom objects journey. Now, the first thing we always recommend is to, one, definitely take time to plan out and visualize the data that you're going to be using. As you saw in the demo, or as you'll see in the recap, custom objects can be integrated across triggers, reports, and again, help center forms in the future. So knowing exactly what information you're going to need for these workflows is definitely critical so that you're not just creating objects that your agents might not be using. But on that note, you can also take advantage of relationship fields with objects. So for example, if you saw in the demo that we were able to pull up that information in the ticket, that was done through a ticket lookup field, but you can also do the same thing for users and organizations as well if you just wanted to enrich existing data that you already have. And for those of you who are more API savvy, you can also pair custom objects with our webhooks, APIs, and in the future, Zendesk integration services in order to create some of those bulk job actions, trigger workflows and external events, or even update external systems. But as a helpful resource, we've gone ahead and linked out a Help Center article that includes all the resources you need to get started with custom objects. And if you're more curious about use cases, whether they're no code or pro code, we also did a community deep dive event a few weeks ago. So I highly recommend rewatching the recap of that as well. With that, thanks so much for letting me chat through custom objects, and I'll go ahead and pass it to Vanessa and Walter to walk us through Explore updates.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Andrea. And hello, everyone. Really excited to be here speaking to all of you about Explore. So we want to move into some exciting changes that are coming to Zendesk's suite of analytics offerings. But before we do that, we really want to just start with an overview of current capabilities for those of you who might be less familiar. So Zendesk reporting and analytics are really designed to help you analyze, understand, and share information that matters most to your organization. And we really are able to do this with features like historical reporting, live reporting, dashboard templates, agent productivity reporting, and so much more that we will be diving deeper into here shortly. And last, but certainly not least, we really believe in democratizing data and making the answers to your most important questions easily accessible within your systems. That's why Explore is designed to be easy to use and easy to scale, which we'll be diving deeper into. So with this in mind, we'll be walking you through an exciting update that we're making to the existing dashboard builder in Explore. So let's move to the next slide to look at what's changing here. Awesome, thank you. So first, we want to highlight how customer feedback has really impacted our decisions to enhance the dashboard builder. We really focused on making it easier, faster, and more intuitive, which you will see here momentarily. So a few changes to highlight here. First and foremost, we heard from customers that it was sometimes hard to move and resize reports within dashboards, especially when trying to make them visually appealing and super professional looking. So the new dashboard builder will allow you to easily design your dashboards with drag and drop functionality and responsive design. So what that means is that dashboards will dynamically adapt to different screen sizes, so they'll stay visually appealing regardless of who's viewing them and on which screen. We also heard the feedback that it could be hard to determine where to start with reporting and analysis for your organization. So the intuitive nature of the new builder is built into the dashboard templates. So we'll be providing suggestions on reports and filters to really serve as that jumping off point to make sure you get the most value out of your analytics. And then lastly, we know that it was pretty time consuming to create multiple versions of the same dashboard to cater to different audiences with different level of data permissions. So the new dashboard builder reduces the necessity for that of building those duplicate dashboards with dashboard restrictions. So what that means is you can construct a singular dynamic dashboard that will adapt and update according to the viewer as you set it up. So this will help you streamline the sharing process, but will also personalize the data experience for every individual who is viewing these dashboards, which is great. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Walter for a behind the scenes look at the new dashboard builder. So over to you, Walter.
All right, so today we will walk through the example of Leah. Leah is a customer support manager that just joined a new company, and she's not familiar with Explore. She doesn't have any data background. Her task for today is to try and measure the agent's performance. So she wants to have both an understanding of how her group is performing and then how the single and individual agent are targeting towards the KPIs. So we're going to look at that experience from the classic and the new dashboard builder perspective. So the first thing that she will do is to go and create a new dashboard. Let's move to the classic builder first. So the first thing that Leah sees here, it's a blank canvas. So there is very little guidance on how to get started. So she might be inclined to go and find the right reports then. So to try and understand how she can build that dashboard. This list, though, doesn't provide much clarity on what reports are the right one for her to plug in. She has an understanding from the title. There is a description of the data set when it was created, but this doesn't give enough details on what are the right one for her to plug in. She might be looking for the one that are related to productivity then and select a few of them. Once she does that, though, she realized that her job is far from being done. There are many reports that still needs to be rearranged in the dashboard. And this is not optimal because she has to spend some time to rearrange them. And even when she does, she might get to the point that the height of the tab might not fit the entire scope of reports. In that case, she needs to extend that height. And she can do that by looking at the tab size. Here, what is displayed is the amount of pixel, and Leah has no way to understand from the UI what is the right amount of pixel to specify in here. So there is a bit of a trial and error here where she might add some pixel and then she understands that it is too much and then remove them again. So it requires a bit of back and forth before she manages to find the right size for this dashboard. At the same time, though, then as we mentioned, she wants to share this dashboard with the agent. So in order to do that, with the classic builder, she has to use a combination of hidden filters and bookmarks. so that she can adapt this dashboard to a specific person. And then she needs to repeat this process over and over again. So just to give you an example, if she has 15 agents, she has to duplicate and repeat this process over 15 times. And in the case where she wants to update one of those KPIs, she needs to repeat that operation once again 15 times. So how that experience changed with the new dashboard builder? So the very first step is different. So Leah here has a list of templates that she can plug into the dashboard. And once she scrolls into that list, she realized that there is a support agent productivity template that provides a full picture of the agent productivity over the last 7 days. Once she adds that to the dashboard, as you can see, it's already laid out and it's ready to be shared with someone. At the same time, she might want to go ahead and customize it with some custom reports that she has built. So she can then remove some KPIs and or expand additional ones. So she can put more focus, as an example, on created tickets. And the moment that she adds more reports into the dashboard, as you can see, it dynamically expands its height. So she has no longer to specify the amount of pixel of the tab. It dynamically expands based on the content of the dashboard. So that is the first task, right? To produce and build this dashboard. The second one, as we mentioned, is then to share this dashboard with the agent. From this dashboard, she can already see what is the performance of her group. So she can filter and understand how many tickets have been created and solved in the last 7 days. So if she wants to take this one step further and share it with the agents, what she can do now with the new dashboard builder is to modify the access to that dashboard. So let's say that I want to share this dashboard with one of my agents. So I can then select to share just a restricted portion of the data. So in this example, Leah can create the agent view, where this dashboard will be automatically filtered based on the assignee name. So it will be automatically filtered based on this criteria, where the value will be based on the viewer. So she doesn't have to specify that value. It will be dynamically retrieved based on the user that is logged in. So once that dashboard restriction is created, then she can share it with the agent. So the moment that agent then access the dashboard, she can look at just the tickets that are assigned to that specific person. So in this case, as you can see, I'm not able to see any other data that's mine. So in a way, it provides this restricted access to the agent while providing Leah with one single dashboard to maintain.
Real quick before we move on, I did want to go ahead and address a couple questions on our demo. Actually, the first one's going to be for you, Andrea. We did miss one from Jamie that I wanted to go ahead and get out there real quick. If you could come back and address that. Perfect. So Jamie wanted to know, building on Brandon's question, we are starting with custom objects, but right now you can't include them in views. When is this coming and is it coming? Oh, and I saw that you already answered it, but I think it's still good that we go ahead and address it live though for everybody else.
No, of course, happy to. In the short term, it's not on our current roadmap. However, it is something that we have had on our radar. So in situations like this, my recommendation is to definitely let us know in the community that this is a feature you're looking for, because when it comes to prioritizing requests for the year, we often look to the community to see what exactly do our customers need and want. So if we see a number of folks who are asking for custom object views, that's going to give us a lot more strength in going to bat for this particular use case. But in the short term, no. But for now, I highly recommend posting about your use case in the community.
Thanks, Andrea. And I can't stress this enough, and we did show this earlier in our roadmap, but a lot of the features that we're considering, especially for this product area that's so developer focused, did come from community requests. So please keep those coming. We did have a couple questions, actually, Walter, about the demo that you just went through. So I was wondering if we can cover those real quick. I see one from Luke, and Luke wants to know, can we make our own templates of custom reports?
That's a great question. So currently we can't, but we are exploring the possibility of building custom templates as part of branding and allowing to have consistent dashboard across the same account. So it's not in the short term, not in the next 9 months, but it's something that we are researching. So look, if if you want to join that research, feel free to share your contact, and you will. I'm eager to have you as part of that research.
Awesome. We did get another question, and this one's from Jamie. Jamie wants to know, can we please make the data set a setting so we don't have to see it on every report in data?
So I guess that it is about showing the data sets on the report. So let me tell you more on why we decided to show that data set in the report. Whenever you deal with more data sets on a dashboard, it was getting more and more difficult to understand how a data or time filter would tie to a specific report. So we decided to show that information in the report so you can immediately understand what data filters will affect specific reports. So in the short term, we are not thinking of removing that option, because actually it was something that some customers have asked for.
Awesome. And we got a couple more we have time for, so we'll get these out real quick and then we'll move on. Meaghan Romero asks, what if the dashboard uses multiple data sets, tickets and updates, update history, for example? So if we wanted the agent we share the dashboard with to see tickets assigned to them, or that they were the updater on, or for example, is that possible with the dashboard restrictions?
Yes, it is. So in that case, you will have to create 2 criteria on the dashboard restrictions, one on the tickets dataset and one on the updates history.
Awesome. And then real quick, Linda, just wanted to confirm, so filters are called dashboard restrictions?
That's different. So filters are as filters that an end user can interact with are still called filters. So there are data and time filters as in the classic builder. Dashboard restrictions are replicating, let's say, the functionality that hidden filters and bookmarks did in the past. So essentially, they will restrict automatically the dashboard based on some filtering criteria. And those filtering criteria cannot be overridden by the end users. So it is to restrict at a very high level the dashboard data. I hope that answered your question, Linda.
These were great. Let's move on. If we have time, we can go ahead and address some of these live at the end. We do, again, have experts in our Q&A chat, so we might be able to go ahead and address the questions in the demo while we're going through the rest of the presentation. But thanks for these great questions. And let's move on to the next part of our event.
All right, so you might be wondering then, how can we move from the classic to the new experience, and what the timeline is going to look like? There have been a few announcements that we shared in the last 2 weeks, but I want to share them again as part of this presentation. So the GA is currently planned for Q4 2024. So before the end of the year, we will GA the new dashboard builder. There will be 4 months then where nothing is going to change. So you will still be able to create new dashboard using the classic experience and edit the existing dashboard using the classic dashboard builder. So no impact at all for the first 4 months after the GA. Then the second phase, it will be the transitionary period. So during this phase, we will lock down the creation of new dashboard. So you will be able to create new dashboard just with the new experience. Existing dashboard won't be impacted yet. So if you've built your dashboard with Classic Builder, you will still be able to edit them using the Classic Dashboard Builder. 4 months after the beginning of the transitionary period, then we will move to the view-only access phase. So that's when we will lock down the editing of existing dashboard. So existing dashboard are still capable of being accessed. So you can still share, schedule, or share those dashboards externally. But you will no longer be able to edit those dashboards in the legacy builder. And then 12 months after the GA, so a full year after we GA the new dashboard builder, that's when we are going to retire the legacy dashboards. So looking at this plan, then I want to cover how you can migrate from the old from the classic to the new experience, and what tools we are going to provide. So moving to so the dashboard builder roadmap. So I want to focus specifically on what we will provide in terms of migration tools, and what are the parity items that are left in the dashboard builder. So first off, you might know that in November we shipped the ability to have an understanding of how many dashboards are actually used. That is a great data point that I will invite you to look at, because what we know from data is that the high majority of dashboards have not been seen in the last 6 months. So when thinking of that migration, you can immediately identify what are the ones that you should look after, and the one that actually can be cleaned up and that do not necessarily need to be migrated. The other thing is about dashboard restrictions. So we already talked about that. And at GA, so that's one part of the updates that we shared, we will provide a beta version of the importer tool. So at the GA of the dashboard builder, you will be able to import reports and filter from a classic to a new dashboard. So that essentially is going to help you automate and rebuilding those dashboards. That is going to be the first version, though. What will come later, and that is mentioned here as the importer tool GA, is the ability to migrate a set of dashboard from the classic to the new experience. And this is something that we already shared in the past. If you don't have the capacity, or you don't have the right skill set to migrate those dashboards, we will provide professional services that you can engage with to get that migration performed on your behalf. So moving to the parity items. So there are two very important functionality that you've asked for. Filtered views that it's essentially bookmarks. So will give you the capability of saving your favorite set of filters and set this as a default view. We already got a question around that, so I'm going to reiterate that this is going to be available during this quarter in Q3. At GA, that's when we will provide schedules, so the ability to schedule a dashboard via email. Post GA, then we will invest on pre-built dashboard. We know that many of you use that as a resource to get started, and to get guidance on what are the right set of reports and filters to use. So we're going to rebuild them in the new dashboard builder. Something new that we shared recently is that we recognize the need of change attribute and image component. So both those components will be rebuilt in a post GA. And looking at the areas kind of after the retirement of the classic builder, I've already mentioned theming, and branding, so the capability of set up a consistent branding across dashboard, and there is as well version control. So we understand that working with Explore, when you work with Explore across different editors, you might want to understand who changed a specific report or filter on that dashboard. So be able to understand and audit those changes and possibly restore a previous version of the dashboard. So that's something that we will be researching in next year. So that is pretty much it. Now over to Vanessa that will share more about the good practices for the new dashboard builder.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Walter. Next slide, please. So now you really understand the updates coming to the new dashboard builder, but what we want to emphasize here is you really don't have to wait to start using the beta builder and getting started with some of these transition items. So we wanted to share 3 quick start actions you can take today to help prepare you and set you up for success for a seamless transition. Number 1, and it is number 1 for a reason, is starting today, you can really start identifying the dashboards you want to migrate. So in order to do this, you can use the tool called Dashboard Activity to understand which dashboards are actively being used by your team, knowing that likely they aren't all actively being used, viewed, shared, etc. And what this will do is really help you prioritize which dashboards to migrate first. And it also prevents an opportunity to clean up your Explore instance and only maintain those dashboards that are relevant to your organization moving forward. So we really do recommend you start thinking about this and also start thinking about who will assist with the migration so that it will lighten the load and foster that organization-wide Explore adoption moving forward. Number two, like we've talked a lot about, there's a big opportunity to consolidate duplicate dashboards. So now's a good time to start kind of making note of duplicate dashboards that can be consolidated with the new builder and start documenting that now, so that during migration, you can really focus on migrating one primary dashboard with all data points and then configuring those dashboard restrictions later to ensure that team members only see the data that's most relevant to them. And then you won't have to create as many duplicate dashboards as you did in the classic builder. And then last but certainly not least, we really encourage everyone to jump in and start using that new beta builder. And we want to emphasize that anything you build within the beta builder today will not have to be migrated when the classic dashboard builder is eventually deprecated. And that all reports you build within the beta builder are compatible with that new dashboard builder. So not to worry about that. Next, please. So we've talked a lot about kind of the suite of tools we'll be offering to simplify this migration process. But we understand that teams might be stretched thin for resources, especially if you have a lot of dashboards, which we will talk about in a minute. So all of that in mind, our professional services team is composed of Zendesk experts who can really help you navigate this migration, as well as unlocking the full potential of your CX reporting and Explore. So what they can assist with a variety of tasks like optimizing migrated dashboard layout, automating dashboard scheduling once you've migrated, and consolidating dashboards and making recommendations there using those dashboard restrictions. Next. So as stated, most customers should be able to easily handle the migration on their own, but for certain customers, hiring professional services might make sense. And this is especially true if you'd like to use the dashboard builder migration as an opportunity to clean up and optimize your Explorer instance to really make sure you're getting the most value possible out of your CX reporting. So we wanted to go through a few attributes that if you hear them and you hear, your organization represented, they might be a good opportunity to reach out to our professional services team. Number one, as we talked about, if you have over 200 dashboards in your account, you might be a good candidate for professional services just because there's, a little bit more work there in terms of migration. Number two, and this is related to number one, if you don't have that internal bandwidth or a dedicated Explorer administrator that you know will be available and dedicated to this migration and transition. And then last but not least, if you want tactical or strategic help with things like visualizing your dashboard components, automating your sharing schedules and external links, or even optimizing and consolidating your current dashboards, you might consider professional services. So with all of that being said, if you are interested in hiring the professional services team, we are going to drop a form into the chat that you can fill out. It should only take you about 1 minute to express your interest to kind of facilitate that first conversation. So we will also include that link in event follow-ups in case you miss it in the chat. Next, please. Awesome, thank you. So before we hand it over to the security team, we just want to share a sneak peek of the exciting new features coming to Explore. These features, as you can see, are really focused on performance, more seamless integrations, and more granular permissions in Explore, and more. But I want to highlight a few of the upcoming features that we're really excited about, starting with performance. So Explorer is really committed to continuously investing in our performance in addition to developing the new functionality that you see on this slide. So in 2024, we have upcoming enhancements to Explorer's performance. And what those will do is help you do things like load reports faster and report on longer time periods, which we know historically have been pain points. So we're really excited about those enhancements. Moving on to permissions, another one I want to highlight. So very soon, we are releasing enhancements to Explore permissions that will centralize and simplify data management for admins and also create a more transparent and intuitive experience for our users. So we're really excited about that, and we think you will be too. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the data exporter. So this year, we're also planning on releasing a tool called Data Exporter. That feature is currently in beta. And what it will do is allow you to export complete data sets from your Explorer instance for external analysis or to upload into other data warehouses. And what you'll be able to do is export as a one-time event or on a recurring basis. So really excited to be talking about that. So I've gone over just a few of these changes, but we're really excited about continuing to build upon Explore functionality. And we want to ensure it serves as your single source of truth for all your most important questions. And with that, I want to hand it over to Max on the security team.
Hey all. So I am going to talk a little bit about our upcoming security features and some of the things we've been building in that space. I want to start out by talking about how we view our security, privacy, and compliance features at Zendesk, what we collectively call trust and safety. We build our products and our businesses with practices that allow Zendesk to exist comfortably within your organization. We want to do that no matter what your company's security posture is. The reason for that is that we know that Zendesk is just one tool in many that your IT teams and security teams will need to evaluate and make sure they fit the decisions you've made about the right security posture. There's no one size fits all there. So we need to be flexible enough to sit within that environment that you're creating. We're here to be your partner. Our teams in security and legal and our customer facing teams are here to work to make that a part of your strategy. We also provide enterprise grade tools from threat management and monitoring to infrastructure security and auditability. And we regularly audit all of our applications, systems, and networks to make sure your data and your customers' data is protected. We also maintain standards and certifications. You can see some of those at the bottom of the page there that are what you need to navigate the regulatory landscape necessary for whatever your region or industry might be. We can jump to the next slide. So we want to, protect the most sensitive data you have with flexible and security privacy tools. And we think about that in a number of different ways. One is how you secure and monitor your data. We offer encryption. We offer currently an EAP, but coming into GA at the end of this year, advanced encryption tools as well. We have strong and robust authentication, including single sign-on, configurable in a myriad of different ways. We have auditing tools, including our access log and our audit log, both of which allow you to see what's happening within your system. We also allow you to control and limit access to data within your system. And that includes using custom roles with granular permissions, using things like private groups to designate specific silos of data that are only available to the right authorized people. And in the future, we'll offer things like data masking to highlight and remove specific pieces of information from some people's view while allowing the whole record as a sum total to be viewable, just with some of the sensitive data removed. And then lastly, what data you keep is incredibly important in the modern day. For a long time, everyone viewed the amount of data you can collect as an asset. And it's also now very rightly viewed as a risk. Attacks to steal data, the potential for leaking data accidentally or maliciously are on the rise and can be incredibly expensive for companies as well. So we try to help you keep the data that you need while removing the data that you do not need so that you can minimize that risk profile with things like data retention policies, redaction tools as well. You can jump to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about where we are going with this. We recently introduced a new, stronger version of our password policy, which we recommend everyone move to. It's called the recommended password policy. We are very aware of the potential for leaked passwords being used, and stronger passwords are one of the main preventions for that. The other one is two-factor authentication, which we recently released for end users. We've supported it for agents for a very long time. In terms of data privacy and data governance, we've introduced new locations for data hosting. Our data locality feature is now available in the UK and in Osaka, Japan. We introduced ticket retention policies and advanced ticket retention policies, which are two ways that you can reduce the amount of data you keep in your system by setting expiration times so the tickets are deleted a certain number of days or years after a ticket is closed. Later this year, we have a ton of stuff coming. I'll just touch on a couple of them. We're going to be introducing brand spaces this August, which will be the ability to assign your individual agents to brands and therefore restrict what tickets they can see by brand. That's in addition to and on top of the existing ticket permissions that we offer for groups, meaning have multiple ways to slice and dice that access within a single system and to create these spaces for the brands that you have. We'll introduce OIDC support for single sign-on. I'm going to demo redaction suggestions in just a minute, so I won't get into that here. But in addition to our ticket data retention policies, we'll be introducing user data retention policies as well, which will allow you to hold on to user records only as long as they're valuable. In the future, some things I want to touch on, I mentioned data masking. This will be the ability to take a user and restrict their access to personally identifiable information so that they'll be able to interact with tickets and resolve them as normal through the use of the system's knowledge of things like names and email addresses without those being exposed to the agent doing the work. We'll also be introducing field level permissions to start to break down access to things like tickets and users to individual fields, so that when you have specific pieces of data about an interaction or about a person that you don't want all of your teams to be able to see, you can limit access to that by role. There's tons of other stuff on here. Always happy to answer questions, and we'll be making a lot of noise about these as they come out into the world the rest of this year as well. So let's go ahead and look at some specific things on the next slide. We want to talk a little bit about some of the things in our advanced data privacy and protection package. Now, this is a new option above and beyond the existing suite, which can be purchased as an add-on, and it contains access to some of the most advanced security features we offer. We offer great security out of the box on all the suite plans, but we know that there are some companies that either through their own personal stance on their threat model or the industry they're in or the region they're in have additional requirements that they might want to simplify the use of. Compliance with global privacy standards is totally achievable with our base set of tools, but a lot of these make it easier or allow you to get more granular or provide even better security. So we're going to allow you to customize data security for reduced risk by selecting what data you show and you keep, gain greater control over customer data using your own encryption keys, maintain granular visibility into data access with detailed access logs. So the access log that I mentioned before is an enhancement to the audit log. It offers you the ability to see view events in the past. So who has looked at particular user or ticket records or downloaded attachments or listened to call recordings, being able to see those things in an individual basis, who the person was, what IP address they were using, and when they looked at it. Advanced data retention policies for both tickets and users will allow you to set up multiple different rules filtered by the metadata on those objects so that you can have different expiration policies for different teams or departments or regions, whatever they might be, across your whole Zendesk instance. Advanced redaction will allow some new features that will make the redaction options we have today less manual, more automatic, and frankly, a lot more powerful. We'll talk a little bit about one of those in just a minute here in the demo section. Data masking, I mentioned briefly, again, being able to limit who can see personally identifiable information on tickets. And lastly, advanced encryption coming into GA towards the end of this year will allow you to encrypt the data within your Zendesk account in a way where you control the encryption keys. They're not stored in Zendesk. They're only accessed through your authorization so that we can decrypt data at runtime. This reduces by a great margin who has access to that data. It's not available as stored anywhere in plain text in Zendesk systems, meaning no Zendesk actor, no threat actor can access that data that way. The only time the data can be viewed is through a logged in user viewing it with the correct permissions. We'll go on to the next slide and we'll talk in detail here about the redaction suggestions feature that we're about to launch next month. Redaction suggestions takes the idea of redaction and acknowledges that even though removing line by line pieces of text from a comment in a ticket or a messaging interaction or even a side conversation is a really valuable process, it's incredibly manual. It requires someone to find what they want to remove and remove it with a couple steps in the process. So the redaction suggestions takes the tack of using AI to look for patterns and what looks like it might be personally identifiable information that you want to remove, and allows you to do that much more quickly. It covers names, addresses, passwords, bank account numbers, and a few other things, and we'll be continuing to add more of those as time goes on as well. This will allow you to meet your obligations much more quickly. It has a really great return on investment by allowing the work that needs to be done more quickly and more accurately. It also prompts agents to take action, which increases the likelihood of people using it and taking those actions, and reduces the amount of sensitive data you're storing. And by redacting specific pieces of text, again, you can keep that whole ticket record for your long-term usage, understanding customer history, looking for previous responses written by your agents to help train, things like that. So I think on the next slide, we're going to jump into the demo. So I am going to share my screen as soon as it's available. Great. This is my ticket in my Zendesk instance. You can see that it's an interaction between Benjamin and Jake here. And you can see actually that there's already one piece of content that's been redacted here in the first comment. This was a password, something we definitely don't want to store long-term. So as soon as Jake, the agent, noticed that Ben had submitted a password, our system highlighted it and Jake immediately redacted it because that's too sensitive to even keep throughout the interaction. There's a number of other pieces of data that have been stored here that are useful to solving this interaction that Jake wants to keep around until the interaction is finished. But now that Ben is satisfied with the interaction that he's had, Jake is ready to redact some content from it. And we have a lot of different options here. As you can see, there's a number of pieces of content that have been hired. So for example, as I mouse over one, it'll tell me what it has detected. This is an email address. This is a bank account number. This is a credit card number. Here's another email address and a name and an address. And redacting them individually is actually pretty straightforward. When I click on one of these, I get a context menu. There's a couple other options in here as well. In the case of a name, I have the ability to copy it. I have the ability to ignore it, which says this is not something I want to redact right now. I'd like it to stop being highlighted. Or I can open the redaction editor, which is the traditional manual editing experience. But if I click redact, that information is removed from the ticket history. It's also removed from all of Zendesk's storage, our logging, everything. We no longer have that information. It is unrecoverable. That's a really valuable thing to be able to say, that if there's information you do not want us to keep or your account to keep, you can do so without having to delete the entire ticket. We also have the ability to redact multiple pieces of content from a single ticket all at once. You can see that I can take all three of these and redact them in a single action, which is significantly faster. The more of these in one comment, the more time savings there is. I also have a number of admin settings which allow me to control this more effectively. In the account section of the admin center under security, you'll see a new menu for redaction suggestions. And when looking at this, I actually have some specific changes I can make. I can choose to not use redaction suggestions at all by unselecting this if this is a feature that I don't want to enable. But if I am enabling it, I can even choose individual kinds of content to highlight or not highlight. It would be pretty easy to say, for example, well, we never really want to remove names this way. We think those are pretty safe. We want to keep them. I could say, don't highlight them. And I also have the ability to reduce the noise in the ticket experience. Some of our customers have indicated to us that, the UI I was just showing you, why is my screen not showing I see what's going on. I need to reshare a different tab, apparently. I didn't realize that was how this worked. My mistake. There we go. That should do it. So as I was saying, you have the ability to remove all types of content, stop highlighting them. You have the ability to show all of them. That essentially disables the feature entirely. You have the ability to check or uncheck individual types of data if you decide you don't want those to be highlighted. You don't want to use redaction suggestions with them. And you have the ability to reduce the noisiness of the feature if you're finding that the highlights are too much for you by turning off automatically highlight PII and tickets. This does not take away the ability to use the feature, but it does change the way the feature works so that if I refresh this ticket, what you'll see is that these pieces of content here that were highlighted before are no longer highlighted by default. But if I go into a comment that has content like that and open the redaction editor, now you can see that the highlight is there. This is a way of saying, I still want people to be able to do this, but I don't want it to be taking over the experience by putting a bunch of yellow highlighted text there. And I still have the ability to remove them from redaction if I want. Right now they're marked for redaction, so that if I hit redact, they will be automatically redacted in that fashion. Again, features called Redaction Suggestions. It will be available in August as part of the Advanced Data Protection and Privacy package that I mentioned a little while ago. And that's the demo.
Max, this was great. We do have a couple questions about the demo you just showed us, if you have a moment. One I really did want to address is from Lisa. Lisa wants to know, can we keep the option to unredact or ignore the redaction to an admin if we need to reference a previous ticket after the fact?
So unredaction is not possible right now. That is something we're thinking about in the future. Obviously, we know that redaction is a permanent decision, which can be a little scary. So we may want to introduce something like that. Although, just like with our options to recover deleted tickets, for example, it's unlikely to be something we can do forever. The purpose of redaction is to remove the content forever. We'd like to have the ability to unredact it so that if there are mistakes, it can be corrected within a certain time window. But we probably don't want to have that as an option forever, because that would mean we'd need to save a copy of that data. Using ignore removes the highlight from a suggested piece of content that we are aware is PII, and it will no longer be highlighted. That's basically a way of saying, I don't want to see this one, either because it was wrong, which can happen sometimes, or because we do not want to redact that particular one, and we'd like to just acknowledge that and move forward. Those are kind of the options as far as that goes.
Yeah, and a lot of the other questions were about redaction as well, and being able to unredact things. So it looks like that's not possible at the moment, but I think that
if the reason you're thinking about unredaction is because of being concerned about errors, it's something we're definitely aware of and looking into. If the reason is more along the lines of like wanting to hide things rather than remove them completely, I would say that's a different sort of feature that we're also thinking about. I mentioned data masking earlier, and that's sort of our first step in that direction. Although there's really an unlimited number of ways we could sort of explore these ideas around hiding, showing, and removing specific pieces of content within a larger object like a ticket. We definitely have a long view on that and a long roadmap of things we'd like to achieve in the next few years.
Perfect. All right, let's go ahead. I think we have one more slide for you to cover, Matt.
So yeah, just a couple other quick things about this feature. The AI-powered redaction suggestions allow you to do a number of things, right? We need to make sure that, to use this correctly, we're training agents on redaction. Again, it's irreversible, as we just discussed. You want to be able to verify those suggestions. There are chances that, given that it is based on a categorization model through our trained ML, it can suggest things that might not be PII if it's a number that looks a lot like a credit card number or a bank account number. It's possible that it may miss something as well. So it's still valuable to scan the conversation and understand it really well. And lastly, take a moment to just look at your settings on it, make sure you're highlighting what you want to highlight, and make a decision about whether you want to use automatic highlighting or only during redaction.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Max. So now with that, let's go ahead and move on to our Q&A. We did answer a lot of questions live. So there are some questions that we saw that we addressed that we removed from our Q&A deck. But let's go ahead and move on to the first one, because I know we are a little short in time and we do want to get to some of these. The first one, this comes from Luke, and Luke asks, I'm new to Zendesk. Where can I go to better understand security and platform and how to utilize it? I feel like a lot of people ask this question in different ways. So we felt we had to start with this one. Andrea, do you want to go ahead and start us off on this answer?
Yeah, of course. At least from the platform side, where I always tend to recommend folks to visit first is definitely our help center. When it comes to platform especially, We do know that things are complex, it's highly customizable, and that's why we've created a number of different recipes. So whether you're working with dashboards for the first time or you're working on workflows, we do have a lot of use cases documented there. But of course, if you don't find anything in the Help Center, I always love referring folks back to our community, either through these events or the community itself, just so that you can start brainstorming ideas with other folks. But Andrea, I think from the security side, is there anything else that you want to add there?
I think same applies for security as well. Like a lot of helpful articles are there on our Help Center, and there's a lot of like helpful recipes and discussions in our community. So those are two top of mind things that you should always go to. One of the Help Center articles I also posted in the chat. It's on the recommended best practices with regards to security. So please review that. It has all the basic to advanced security configurations that you should think of and try applying that in your Zendesk accounts.
Perfect. Thanks for that answer, both of you. Let's go ahead and move on to our next question. And this one is for all three of you, actually. What are the first things I should set up if I'm getting started with platform security?
I know we're short on time, so I can probably do quick lightning round on my side. On the customization side, definitely integrations. If you're using external systems that need to be integrated in Zendesk, get those integrated first, because then you can go to those preset triggers and automations that we have set up and customize it so that your systems are all orchestrated together. I think the very last thing, and shamelessly, are custom objects, because again, if you need specific data for your reports or your workflows, it's important to get that in sooner rather than later.
Cool. And then really quickly from an Explore perspective, I think what's really important when setting up Explore is starting by defining your goals for CX reporting. What do you really want to get out of it? Speak to key stakeholders that you know are going to be the ones looking at the dashboards and really understand their goals when it comes to reporting, so you can make sure you're incorporating that into the dashboards, reports, et cetera, that you build. And speaking of the new dashboard builder, which I know we've talked a lot about here, is, start building out key dashboards with the new dashboard builder. Use our templates as a jumping off point. And remember that sometimes less is more. This is why you really want to start with defining the goals, because you want to be able to then focus on what's most important for your organization when you're reporting. So data does not get lost when folks are reviewing it.
And on the security side, there are a number of things that you can find on Help Center as well. The basic ones is not sharing the passwords. The password policy should be set to high or recommended. Your SSLs should be configured if you're using a non-Zendesk subdomain. On data management side, limit the data that you keep. Make use of redaction of credit card information, the automatic redaction feature, and consider buying the ADPP add-on to take your security and privacy posture to another level.
All right. How will the migration to the new dashboard builder be different from migrating from?
It is very different. So in the insights migration, you were required to rebuild all your reports, right? And that took, it's quite a difficult task to perform. While as of now, all the reports that you have built are already compatible with the new dashboard builder. So you can start using them right away. So it is very different. And at the same time, the insight migration, there wasn't any importer tool, while here we're providing you with the knowledge of what dashboards you should be migrating with dashboards activity, the importer tool to automate that migration, and then, as I mentioned, professional services to assist you in case you do not have the bandwidth or the resources to kick off that migration.
Awesome. And I do want to get one more question in. I know this isn't on, or this is the last one we have time for, but I did want to address this one on HIPAA because we did see a lot of people ask this question. And again, this one, anyway, where does HIPAA fall into this? I think a lot of people are trying to fit that puzzle piece into how this, do we have rules for this? Is there a certain setting? Are we just adhering to them on the back end?
Yeah, HIPAA is basically one of the compliance regulations that Zendesk supports. Obviously Zendesk is a very customizable customer service platform. So it all depends on how you use your Zendesk application. There are a bunch of security configurations specifically recommended for HIPAA, and that's also mentioned on the Help Center. There's an article specifically dedicated to talk about that spells out all the requirements that you need to configure on your side in the Zendesk account to make sure you're HIPAA compliant. Obviously, Zendesk and the customers can enter into a business associate agreement, which specifically also spells out the functionality like ticketing, guide, explore, and all the different things that Zendesk supports from HIPAA standpoint. So yeah, I think please feel free to reach out to security@zendesk.com if you have any further questions.